Alright, I think I have gone live on the internet. You should be able to see the game loop if anybody is watching. And hear the music in the background. If the music is too loud, give me a shout and I will turn it down. So this stream I wanted to just set up and create because I wanted to write some scripts for Artemis Cosmos, which is the next version of Artemis, and along the way document what I was doing, just for me as much as anybody else. I thought it might be interesting content to watch. A couple of people have said they like watching coding streams, so I thought I'd put that up there for people to have a look at. Let me just turn that desktop down in the background. I'm just going to check my sound as well in the background. Give me a second. I wanted to just... Right, so that should be working just fine. There we go. Right. So at the moment, I've just got the game loop playing, just while I get things set up in the background. I do have script open and everything running in the background that I'm going to start showing in just a second. Let me get this ready. Until I get my two monitors as well, there might be some flicking backwards and forwards between the game loop and my actual desktop screen. That's just to keep it from having to see all my folders and things, or if anything pops up, just in case as well. But when I get my second monitor up and running, which hopefully will be tomorrow, there'll be a lot less of that. Alright, you're also going to see my broadcast software in the background and a little bit of TeamSpeak, which I've just muted there. Tell you what.
Microphone activated.
Nope, we'll do that. Alright, so let's switch across to my desktop screen. Here we go. Right, so let's start off with this. This is a practice script that I've just set up for Artemis Cosmos. We go here, Artemis. I've got Artemis Cosmos here. I spent last night, I was going to stream last night, but I ended up not streaming because I spent last night going through the test scripts that Tom had written, as well as stuff that Doug has written as well, and trying to figure out bits that were going on with the scripts there. And I'm making myself some notes. So these are my scripting notes. Let me turn this down a little bit more, because as much as I love that track, I think it's a bit loud. There we go. Okay, so I figured out what I was doing with the global variables and how they could work. I figured out about these different properties and what different things meant. I was kind of linking up with Tom's documentation that he's put, so he added a bit of documentation. So the scripting documentation that is added, and this was posted by Darren on the Artemis forums if anybody's interested in having a look at that. But he's also had a object data documentation, and I've kind of picked my way through it and figured out how it all works and how it all links up. I'm still not sure on a couple of bits. Let's have a look down here. I wasn't quite sure on this SBS ship system engines and exactly how I could use that and the different ways I could use it, but we'll see as we go along. I want to get the chat up just in case there are people watching, so just give me a second to transition out. So while I do that, if you are watching, you can post in the chat, say hello. I wonder if I can... Pop out chat. Oh, right, okay, here we go. Pop the chat out, excellent. Alright, so I managed to pop my chat out. Excellent. That's nice. And if I go back here... Awesome, I've got my chat up. Huh, I didn't know I could do that. Still learning streaming as well, so if you are in the chat, say hi. If not, it's fine. If there's nobody watching, it's fine as well. This is a video for me as much as everybody else. So the first thing that you're going to do in an Artemis script is you've got to define this handle script start. Oh, I've got to also import a couple of things. Now I do have another script here to go off. So this is my TSN sandbox script. So if I open this, so I've got to import SBS. SBS is the module that's used by Artemis, and it's, from what I understand, it gets the hooks between Python and I think Artemis is written in C++, so it's the hooks between those. So you've got to always import SBS as a module, and then you can actually start writing your code and it'll understand what it is. Then the next thing you got to do is you got to create a definition. You got to create a function, sorry, not definition, called, if I can type, handle script start, and then you pass in sim, which I'm assuming comes from SBS. And then in there goes all my code for this, what used to be in the old mission script, and if you ever did that, that'd be the start block. Then there is the another function, handle script tick, and that's what is read during the game itself. So you've got your script start and your script tick. So this is your start block, and then this is what it reads through constantly when you're actually playing the game. So the start block only happens once. So in the start block, that's where you set up your player and everything. Now, let's see. In my documentation, I didn't actually do it. So in here, so some of this I've taken from other scripts. Sim, make new player. Okay, so I want to create a player ship, and I'm just going to call it player ID. This ID, when it creates a new player, just sets itself to 1. So I think then that means the object is 1. So I'm still working this out. So SBS dot, what is it? Oh, sim make new player. Sim dot, is it in capitals? Make new player. So if I open Tom's documentation here, see, it's got this in the scripting documentation. It is simulation, this one, class simulation. You can add nav point, clear nav point, delete nav point in different ways. Get space object, make new active, make new passive, make new player. So this make new player actually sends it to the clients, I believe. So make new player, and then you need to define its behavior. So its behavior, and I made a note on this. See, this is where it's going backwards and forwards a lot and stuff. So like behavior, what behaviors are available. And you can reference it there. Here we go. Behaviors are behavior nebula, asteroid, NPC, player ship. So I need to put this in behavior, player ship. I must note as well, this is for the current pre-release alpha version of Cosmos. I managed to get a copy off Tom for like helping out with testing and development and things like that, to try it out and get I suppose I'm giving a player's point of view or a scripter's point of view as to get into grips with it, and one that isn't like an advanced coder person, because it's only been recently that I've taught myself Python, and this is the first language that I've ever written in. Now, the player ship is referenced. So I'm not knowledgeable about coding, and I'm not like super into coding. I've not done it for years and years like some people have. Obviously I've written the TSN sandbox, but that's been using the mission editor, which is plain English basically, rather than being really complex like C coding, for example. Now the first reference is, I think that's how it interacts with the game engine. It's not to do with AI. I thought it was originally to do with AI, but I think it's to do with how it interacts with the game engine and the information that's passed backwards and forwards between the client and the server, or something like that. So behavior player ship means that it's set up in a particular way. Behavior nebula, a nebula is a static object, so there's a lot less information that needs to be communicated backwards and forwards. This is how I understand it. Therefore, this behavior for a nebula is used instead of behavior for a player ship. Whereas for a player ship, you need to update the status of different systems to the client. You need to update the position to the client. You need to update the rotation. You need to update the speed. All that information has to be communicated backwards and forwards, and I think that's what that behavior player ship means. It means that there's all this information attached to it that can be manipulated or understood by the client and the server. Now the next bit is actually which ship that I want. So this is a ship data file. It's unfinished. I know for a fact that there's 3 asteroids defined in the ship data file. You can see there's very few bits of information in there, but when we were sat talking the other evening with Tom, he literally added another another 8 asteroid types in there. So this is not finished by any means. I'm just gonna make this ship a light cruiser. So let's go light cruiser. So this reference is which one in the ship data do I want? I want this light cruiser. So there's light cruiser in there, there's battle cruiser at the moment, there's missile cruiser. Interestingly, I tried putting in like Goliath. If you look in this script here, I put in Goliath and it worked, which was pretty cool. Now SBS dot, it is assign player ship. So once I've created it, this is creating a new object. Now you do the assign. Where is it? SBS. That's broad test. That's message. I did put it in the documentation somewhere. No, I didn't. Let's go here. So you do SBS, assign player ship. I think it might be here actually. Where is it? Set behavior, data setting. So this is what I mean by me live streaming. Here we go. Sends player ID to client. So it's interesting, it says hack there, so I don't think this is a completed bit yet. So assign player ship, and then I take the player ship number, which is defined by player ID, because this player ID, I've printed this out before, and it says like 0, 1, 2, 3. So SBS dot assign underscore player underscore ship. And what parameters did I pass in? Oh, I passed in the player ID. So I passed in player ID. So that creates a player ship. You can see I'm going back to and from this code. And then what I can do is I can say this object, and I can and then I can assign it to a variable, the whole object, using the get. So let me see in his documentation where this is. Set get here. That's one get. But there's another one. Delete get space object. Returns a reference to the space object by ID. And then what you can do is you can manipulate that space object. So I'm going to put, I'm going to give this a name. So let's call this TSN Artemis equals get space object. And then I think I do I do player ID? Yeah, because it's an integer. And this is the integer that I'm getting. Sim.spec get space object. So I need to do that first. Sim.get space object. So it's a method from the sim. Right. I might be using the wrong terms there, by the way. Right. So now what I can do, you see, with this TSN Artemis, that's a space object, so I can manipulate that and I can do things to it. So I'm going to go, I want to reposition it. So I'm trying to do some of this from memory. Reposition space object. Simulation space object. Float 1, 2, and 3. Right. See, I'm getting my head around how this works. So if I do sim.reposition space object, then I need simulation, which is the sim, I think, the space object, which is TSN Artemis, and then 3 floats. I'm going to put it at 100, 0, 100, and those floats don't need to be in a bracket at all. Right, okay. Right, so this should make a new player ship that's a light cruiser and put it into player ID. Then I'm sending that player ID to the clients, and then transmitting the information across to the client. Then I'm taking that space object, player ID, which will be 0, and I'm saying, right, I want it to be, the whole object is now in Artemis, called TSN Artemis, and then I am saying, right, reposition TSN Artemis. That should work. So let's get rid of it. Minimize that for a sec. Minimize that. Go here. Fingers crossed. Start server. Practice script. Here we go. There's the TSN Artemis. Haha. Worked. Alright. Right. And that should be... Oh dear. Where's it gone? Oh, not TSN Sandbox. See, that's the Goliath. Oh, and I put loads of stuff shooting me as well. Right. Practice script. Yeah. 100, 0, 100. Excellent. Okay. That's interesting. That has not cleared out. There's one for Tom. But now it's not there. Okay. Right. So that's number 1. So that's how I create a player ship. Now, terrain. So I want to create some terrain. I want to create some nebula. And I want to create them in a random order. I think I might use... Do I want to do that? So you see in the sandbox, what I've done is I've created a module that will allow me to get terrain data and name data. But if I'm starting this from scratch and I'm doing it without that, right. So let's create some asteroids. So asteroid equals sim dot make. So this is a passive, and it's going to be behavior. Where's the behavior? Is it just behavior underscore asteroid? I could do this in a better document, so I could highlight in colors. Behavior asteroid. Okay, and I'm going to call it asteroid 1, because that's the reference in here. So we've got asteroid 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Then how did I do it here? Get space object. So the asteroid equals sim dot get space object asteroid ID. Okay, and then sim dot reposition space object asteroid, and let's put it at 200 0 100. So that should be a head. So that's going to create one asteroid. Run. Start server. Practice script. There's the asteroid. Alright. Now, I did write my thing, so I think I'm going to use it actually. Space map designer, new window. Right, so I did write this program for actually designing space maps, and what it did was it mapped out loads of coordinates. So these coordinates here, it mapped those out for me. So I'm actually going to use this. As you can see here, what I can do is I can map out asteroids. So Artemis is going to be at 0, 0, 0. Oh, in fact, what's this coordinate here? So if that's coordinate 0, 0, 0, that's 500 back, and that's 500 down. In fact, I can go like this. Ready? Increase the step.
No whisper target
Oh,
found.
that's irritating, isn't it? Where's TeamSpeak gone?
Disconnected.
There we go. I have to excuse
Channel switched.
what I'm doing. There we go. Okay. So that coordinates. Let's make it minus 10,000 men. So we'll do negative 10,000, negative 10,000. So that will put the Artemis there about, which is that bottom right hand corner. Alright. So let's go terrain. Asteroid 1. Let's create a line of asteroids this way. Density. Go with 300. Oh dear. Let's have it with a negative 1,000, positive 1,000, and a scatter of 500. Right. Generate the field there. Let's make it a bit better. So what this is doing is it's generating loads of coordinates for me. And actually I want to map out some of this nicely. So this is my box. Artemis is going to be down here in this corner, so there's an asteroid field there. Let's keep going with this asteroid field actually. Let's have it come up around here. Really dense in patches. I want to increase that scatter to about 1,000, I think. Okay, so there's a nice dense asteroid field there. Let's get the nebula. A few nebula on the back there. Okay. Some more asteroids around here. So this is a bit different because this is my own program for designing terrain maps. I built this mainly for the TSN sandbox, but I can use it for my other code as well. Can I generate here? If we can have it come down here as well. Quite a large nebula. And then let's get a base right in the middle. Station. Name. So the names don't quite work yet either. So I'm going to have a base there. Let's put a base on the edge of this asteroid field and a base down here. Then let's have nav points. No, let's go back to more terrain. So the old mission editor was really good for generating this kind of terrain, because it'd be really easy just to generate asteroid fields and manipulate them and stuff. And if anybody wants to write a program that's better than mine, I am more than happy for them to do so. Let's look. Nebula over here. Very dense nebula there. Let's do a really not so dense nebula through there. There we go. Right, okay. We've got 3 bases. Alright, save that data. And close that. So that saved all those positions there for me. So I'm going to close that. And I should have that. Let's copy that. I'll paste it straight in here. Right, so there's my terrain data. Now, to get that data, that's in a shell file. Where's my save code? Load. Tell you what, I'm going to grab it from here because this code worked and was up to date. So I needed that and that. I'm cheating a little bit here. But never mind. So if you do want to take part in the chat, make sure you subscribe. Right, so file name, file directory. Find file terrain.dat. Let's just do a quick print. if I do it in the handle script start, if I do print terrain data, and I do, oops. Oh no, I don't want to do that, do I? Let's do it, yeah. Terrain data, print named data. Now then, if I just remove that temporarily and run this, there's the terrain data, perfect. So you can see this is all nebula, this is all asteroids, station, right, okay. So, if I change this to terrain ID, and then behavior plus so this is terrain data. So for let's put for T in terrain data, so that needs to be T. In the length of terrain data in range, the length of terrain data. So this is how I end up coding. So for T in the length of terrain data, so what it'll do is it'll go through it, it'll go, right, terrain data, how many instances we've got in there? Millions, because that I think I created a few thousand. Oh, that's really annoying. Asteroid 1. Let's swap this to asteroid, so I could improve that a bit actually. Asteroid ID, behavior, asteroid 1. So if terrain data in position T, so that'd be 0, which would be that. 1, 0 equals asteroid. Then go like that, and go terrain data T, and then it's asteroid 1 here, so that's 1. So what it's going to do is going to look at the full length of this, and it's going to go, there's thousands of instances in there. I'm going to start instance 0, I'm going to say tick through it, and I'm going to say if zero is asteroid, which that's 0 is asteroid, then I'm going to create an asteroid ID. I'm going to, based on this, make new passive. I'm going to have it asteroid. I'm going to take the instance 0, 1, which is that. And then I'm going to assign it to the space object. Then I'm going to reposition it. So this is, see, I can't have it in as a tuple, that's annoying. In brackets, so terrain T, oops, oh, it's terrain data, and then it's data number 2, 0, so that's the X. Then I've got the Y, which is that one, and then I've got the Z, which is that one, so X. Y is 1, Z is 2. Okay. So that's that. That will create all the asteroids. Now, if it's not asteroid, then I want it'll be a nebula. Where's nebula? How does it look? Let's scroll right to the bottom. Just created all the asteroids. Nebula. So if it equals nebula, then let's do nebula ID. So let's reference all the nebula separate. It means I could do stuff with the nebula then, I think. And when there's different types of nebula in there, in fact I could even create different types of nebula already with this and have it interact with the ship. Interesting. Behavior. Let's start simple though. Let's start with setting up a simple mission. And then the rest is all pretty much the same. So I can copy that. And I can paste it here. So nebula. It doesn't. Oh, that's interesting. Nebula ID, behavior nebula, Tyrian data 1, and then let's go nebula. And go nebula ID. And then this is nebula. There we go. Right, so what it's going to do now is it's going to find my file. So this I've already pre-written anyway. It's going to find the file in the directory by walking through it. So that's that function to find the file. So data, I'm finding the file terrain.dat there. And then I'm getting rid of the .dat. And then I'm feeding it into this. And then it's gonna do all that. So let's go put this SBS back in. Right. Artemis 3. Let's see if it generates it now. This will be good if it does. If it breaks, then it... Oh, there we go. Awesome. So there's that asteroid field that I started creating. So if I fly this way... See, this is where we need a few nav points in as well. I might have to go back and add some nav points. Probably do that manually. Very nice. There's the nebula in the background popping in. Nice. Excellent. There's the nice dense nebula I created. So I'm still getting used to like the scales to use. I think 1,000's quite nice for a bit of a scatter. Very dense nebula. Yeah, looking good. Right. So that's that. I've not put in the named data. So for n in range, the length, named data. If did I print the named it? Station. If named data n0 equals station, then station ID equals sim dot make new. Is it make? Let's have a look. What am I making? Oh, it's in Thom's reference. Script and notes, script and documentation. Make new passive, make new player, make new active. Is it an active? Is a station an active or a passive? Did I create stations in this? Make new active. Right, make new active. Behavior is station. Terrain data T. Now I think I have to reference 0 for this because in the thing here I've got light cruiser, battle cruiser, missile cruiser, Goliath, Leviathan, Behemoth. I've only fighter, I've only carrier, cargo, hunter, battleship, dreadnought. Where are the stations? Starbase. No, it's called Starbase. So I might need to edit that in my other code. Okay, so station equals sim.get space object station ID sim.reposition space object station, and it's this 012. So it's this, but it's not terrain data, it's named data. Right, grab that, put it there, put it there, and it's not T, it's N. Now I do know that I could probably wrap all this into this one thing up here and have it call the right bits and pieces, but I'm just keeping it like this for now. Alright. So now that puts stations in. So let's go here, practice script. Can I zoom out here? Can't see the stations. I'm too far away from them, aren't I think? There's DS72. There we go. There's the station. That's interesting. With this number of asteroids, you can't actually see. Right, if you zoom in, you can. So this is where nav points are going to come in. So let's take that data and let's create nav points for these stations. Add nav point. Nav point. So I think it needs to be sim dot add nav point, and then it's got float 1, 2, and 3 string. Float 5, 6, 7. So float 1, 2, and 3 at X, Y, and Z coordinates. So this will be float 1, 2, 3. Like that. And then the string, I want to be the name of the station. So let's do DS10. Oh, they're all DS10. Great. I can actually change that in my program. Not that one. Where's my program? That one. I can actually change that in this. So run, load data, so I've got 3 stations. That one. Choose objects. Select area. DS10. Let's keep DS10 there. So I did build my way of being able to rename stuff. So that one, let's call it DS45. Rename. And this one, let's call it DS36. Rename, so that should be DS36. The zoom's not quite working on this properly. Not how I want it anyway. So that's DS. Rename. Why are you not? DS36, there we go. DS10, DS45, DS36. Save data. Close. Grab this data. Delete. Delete anyway. Paste. Okay. So then it's going to have named data n and what reference? 2. No, 1. Like that. And then it's going to have RGB, right, RGB colours. Red, green, blue. So let's go 0. 155 instead of 255. I know 255 is the maximum, so it is a green marker, and that should add a nav point. Right, go back to the game. Practice script. Line 47. I've done something wrong there. Should that be SBS? Let's try SBS. No. Let's have a look. See, this is what I mean by making mistakes. So it's, yeah, it is sim. Sim, add nav point, name data. 20 21 22 name data n1, so it'd be that one so that name RGB, is it RGB? Yeah. 1 2 3. Oh, because I'm missing an argument. String text RGBA. Let's put it at 0. See what happens at 0. I don't know whether it should be 0 or 1 for that one. That's the alpha channel, so that's to do with how transparent it is. Start server. Practice script. Okay, so it's all the way transparent. Alright, okay. So that's a 1. Practice script. There we go. Haha! So now there are 3 nav points. There's nav point number 1. Now I wonder if I add those before the asteroids, whether they'll appear on top. Right. Options. Let's go here. Let's get that. And whack that on top. Like that. Now let's see what happens. Nope, they go underneath, that's interesting. Alright, but I've got nav points to the 3 stations. Excellent, right. So those are the 3 stations. I've got the player in there, and I've got my asteroids in there in the nebula. Taken from the terrain data that I generated there. Right. Time is it? Okay, I think I might leave this here, because it's kind of generated the start of it. The next bit, I think what I want to do is start figuring out how to add in enemies. So maybe I'll look at designing an AI for enemies to decide what they're going to attack, and figure out how to do that. Then once I've figured out how to design an AI for enemies, have that, because I've got an idea of how it can be done with firing at a target point. So in this script here, for example, I called the variable enemy AI, but it's this data set that's important. So you can set the data of different objects, and you've got the name of data, and you've got the data that you want to set, or the index of that data as well. So this was a basic AI that I created that attacked an enemy ship, a player ship, based on the variable player. So I reckon if I open up a new script and start designing this AI, I could probably get some complex AI behaviors. So if I go new and I call this enemy AI, it's a Python file, and then in here I want to import enemy AI, because I'll eventually use that, and then design the enemy AI in this script here using things like this, and then call it in this script here and see what happens. But that is a video for another time, because there's the enemy AI that's adding enemies in, because at the moment if you add an enemy in, they just sit there and do nothing. And then if you start adding data into them like this, then they start doing stuff. But I could get them to first target the bases and try and destroy the bases, and then I could get them like switching target if the player comes close to target the player and things like that, and get more complex behaviors and start building that up, which I think is going to be essential for when it comes to writing the sandbox and wanting AI that makes sense with what the ships are doing and what their priorities might be. So if I can start building that up and get my head around how to do that, it's going to be really useful. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to leave it there. I've got the basics in there of a ship. I've got the basics in there of stations, asteroids and nebulas. So I've got all those in there, and I've got that terrain data file loading from here. The next bit will be adding in other ships. Maybe I design one where there's an NPC cargo ship going backwards and forwards between the stations. That might be a good one. That might be a very good one, actually. Then I can have a very simple AI of go this way, go that way, go this way, go that way, and repeat. Right. If you're watching after the fact, thank you for going back and watching my stream. What I'll do is I'll switch over to let's switch over to this game loop. There we go. Yeah, thank you for watching after the stream. If you watched live, then cool. It was nice to have you tuning in live. I'm going to stop things there and hopefully try and stream again. Maybe tomorrow. I'm not quite sure. We'll see. And like I say, this is pre-release of Artemis. This is like an alpha version of Artemis. Tom said it was alright for me to stream stuff of doing bits and pieces, but as long as it was on the proviso that it's very clear that this is not a finished game by any means. It's very much still in development, but I'm having a lot of fun going through the scripting and trying to puzzle it out a little bit more. It is much more complex than using the mission editor to do stuff, but the potential is vastly superior as well that we can do with that. So it's quite exciting to have the chance to be able to go through and do this. So I'll see you next time.